everyone, and welcome back to Create and Consume, a podcast about what we make, watch, and buy in the era of digital content. I'm your host, Austen Tosone. Being a content creator is so much more than just snapping a photo and hitting the post button. But if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know that. There is truly so much that goes into creating even just one great piece of content, never mind staying consistent, innovating, and trying to build a personal brand online. Luckily for us content creators, so many amazing softwares, tools, apps, programs have been developed in the last several years to really help us work smarter, not harder, and honestly to find creative ways to make us look like we have skills that we may not possess, like me with graphic design, which we will talk about in this episode. Today, I am going to take you inside of my influencer toolkit, which is essentially my tech stack, my list of tools in my arsenal that I can pull out at any time as a content creator to help me create things, edit things, distribute things, and so much more. So I'm going to tell you all of the tools that I can't live without and exactly how I'm using them in my influencer business. Before we get into the main topic of today's episode, we're going to do a little create and consume as we do in every episode. So if you're new here, create and consume is actually the name of the podcast that you're listening to. And it's also a fun little segment I like to do at the top of each episode because we are always all creating and consuming, even if we don't realize it. And this is kind of just a pulse check to say, what am I creating this week? What am I consuming this week? And I want to hear from you as well. So you can leave comments on Spotify if that's where you're listening, YouTube if that's where you're watching. You can come and say hi over on Instagram or TikTok at Create and Consume Pod and tell me what you're making, what you're buying, what you're watching. I want to know. As far as what I have been creating this week, I am really trying to make myself appear as more of a thought leader on both LinkedIn and Threads. I do feel like I am a thought leader. I feel like I'm maybe not as good as remembering to show up and share the thoughts that I have that could potentially lead. So I have been trying to prioritize posting on both LinkedIn and Threads to grow my presence on both as a creator economy expert. I feel like this is something that can really help, grow my brand, get more people into my world and my views of content creation and everything. And hopefully also, most importantly, share some helpful tips behind the scenes and takeaways throughout my posts to help more people get more familiar with this industry. So all of that to say that this past week I posted as a single standalone post on LinkedIn and as a thread with, I think, like 5 threads attached to it on Threads, a little summary of how I have been testing YouTube's A/B thumbnail test feature. If you don't know, if you're not a YouTube content creator, YouTube now gives you the ability to A/B test different thumbnails for your videos. So this is hugely helpful to understand what people are clicking on and what is encouraging more watch time. That's actually how the metric is measured. It's not by click-through rates, it's by which thumbnail led to more watch time overall. So I have been loving testing this feature. I'm learning a lot about my audience from doing so, and I feel like it's also making me a better thumbnail designer. And we'll talk about what tool I use to design my thumbnails in a little bit. So I decided to share 3 big tips and takeaways that I've noticed from testing this feature over the last few months. And I will link both posts from LinkedIn and Threads in the show notes in case you want to go see what I'm talking about. And then as far as what I'm consuming this week, we finally finished You. That is one of those shows that obviously as you're watching, you feel like you need to watch the next episode so you avoid spoilers, but you also feel like you can't even stomach the next episode because the one you just watched was really disturbing in its own way. But I really felt like I had to see this show through to the end. It's been a roller coaster of a couple of years now, and I think I'm pretty satisfied with how the ending all turned out. With no spoilers, I will just say it did have me on the edge of my seat throughout the whole show. I love how they can kind of take the same concept but do it like a little bit differently each season. And I have really just enjoyed the not knowing and trying to like guess what's going to happen, even though I have not necessarily enjoyed the content of the show, given that it's so dark and horrible. But I feel like this marks the end of an era. I feel like this was a totally different role for Penn Badgley. I also feel like the recurring characters from multiple seasons and also the characters who kind of just stood in individual seasons, it really just gave everyone like a whole new scope and range of what other characters they could play. So I think it was really well done overall. I think it was well written. I think there were twists and turns, and obviously clearly upsetting, and really makes you want to look over your shoulder when you're walking anywhere. If I had to rank all of the seasons of You, I think I would go 4. And I know that's probably controversial. Some people probably hate season 4, but that one to me was the one that kind of kept me in it. Like, I think if it had not been for the first half of season 4 and then the midpoint of season 4, that maybe I would have dropped off and not continued on. So 4 is at the top. I think 5 would probably be next. I think then 2 would follow that, 1, and then season 3. And I'm sorry in advance for ranking season 3 last, because my celebrity crush Scott Speedman is in that season, but I just felt like plot wise and what actually like moves things forward, I felt like there was more plot and more things that were happening in some of the other seasons. Ooh, this show truly does give me the heebie-jeebies, but if you watched it, feel free to message me and let me know your thoughts and let me know what your favorite season was. With that being said, let's get into the topic of today's episode. So, I honestly use so many more tools and apps in my creator business than I ever imagined that I would. And what I tried to do for this episode was group them in a couple of different categories. So, first, I wanted to start with backend organization and basically like how the ship runs in the first place. Then I wanted to talk about some specific apps that help me create content. Then I wanted to move on to editing, research, and distribution. I guess I can kind of put those two in together. And then I will also let you know some tools that I kind of pick up like maybe a couple times a year, or maybe I like reactivate my subscriptions for those tools a couple of times a year. And also some tools that I've tried in the past that I do think are great, but that I just personally don't have a use for right now, because there are so many tools that I have hyped up in the past that have been game changers for me at a certain point in time, but maybe I'm just like not finding myself reaching for it right now. And I think that's totally valid. Honestly, this could even probably be like a yearly podcast episode to let you know like what tools kind of stand the test of time, what tools are more seasonal, and sometimes you outgrow tools as a business owner too. So I think there's a lot to get into here. Let's kick it off with probably, to the surprise of no one, the tool that at this point I really can't live without, and that is Notion. Case in point that I can't live without it, I'm literally using it right now. So Notion is where I basically track everything in my creator business. So in my Notion, I have my yearly goals. I have a whole planning hub that I personally have designed where I set goals for the year. I also break it out into weekly to-do list. I give myself quarterly goals and really make sure that I can stay on track with everything that I want to get done. I will link my planning hub in the show notes in case you want to check it out or even like get it and use it for yourself. That is really the brain of my business. Like, it's everything I really want to achieve for myself, all written out very clearly in one place with the actual steps and to-dos that I need to make sure I am hitting each week to get myself towards my goals and get myself towards what I really see my overall vision for my influencer business being. So that hub is really like the crux of everything. And then also from there, I have built out some additional hubs to track things like podcast episodes. So I am reading to you from a podcast outline that I've written in Notion. Within the podcast hub, I have a little page of brainstorming and research. I have a page of episode ideas. Then I have my episode recording schedule. And I also keep in here basically like an upload checklist. So, like everything that I need to do in order to upload a podcast episode to Spotify for Creators, where it then goes out to Apple Podcasts, Amazon, all of the different places that you can listen to it. My checklist for when I upload a YouTube video, my checklist for when I create the corresponding blog post recap. Did you know that I do one of those for every single podcast episode? So if you're ever sitting by a bench in Central Park and wondering to yourself, what was that thing Austen said that she bought in that last podcast episode from Amazon that I'm not sure? You could literally go to createandconsumepodcast.com, type in the word Amazon, and any podcast episode that I've mentioned something from Amazon will be there, and it should help you be able to find what you're looking for much more easily. So that is one of the reasons that I have the blog post recaps and that I love doing those. And even more than that, Notion, I also have a little contact hub for all of the brands that I am in contact with. So I have little places where I can put the contact's name, their email, and I also even have a setting in my Notion. I'm not even sure how I did this. I would have to go back and look into it, where if it's been more than 3 months since I was last in contact with that brand, it will ping on the spreadsheet and it'll say, time to reach out. It's been more than 3 months since you've noted that you've been in contact. And I feel like that just helps me keep up my relationships with brand partners. And it's just truly something I would not remember to do on my own because I'm only one person with a brain that can only hold so much information in it. And I just absolutely love it. I also do use Notion for a couple of personal things. Like I kind of have an ongoing little shopping list for myself in Notion. I keep track of books that I'm reading, but really Notion I do use primarily for business, but I am still using the free plan for Notion, and there is definitely so much that you can do with the free plan. That is one really big part of my backend organization. Next up, I use Google Calendar to really schedule out my days and also keep track of things like important dates, time off, and meetings. So that is really helpful to see the visual breakdown of what I think my days are going to look like. I have recently been testing something new with Google Calendar. I watched a YouTube video by content creator and social media strategist Julia Broom. Tanisha recommended her to me, and I have been loving following her ever since I found her account through her. So I will link the video of hers that I watched down below. And I'm also going to link a vlog where I show you how I actually implemented her system into my Google Calendar. Like I do spend part of a vlog getting that all set up. So if you want to see the visual of either of those, please check out the show notes where you can find links to both. And what I like about Julia's system of how she scheduled out her days were, number one, it broke the day down into kind of more reasonable chunks where you can see if you don't get something done during your morning session, that you probably have time to accomplish it in your afternoon session, and so on and so forth. And I also really liked how she talked about color coding her calendars and actually creating separate calendars for different tasks so that you can color code them in a cute way. Because if you just use the built in colors that Google Calendar gives you, those are they're not cute. And I don't know why you can't just change the colors within a single calendar. So her workaround was creating a bunch of different calendars. And honestly, I'm not mad about it. It does visually look so much better. But essentially, what that means is now I have my personal calendar, which I've always had, and I've added in a couple of different calendars for different tasks. So now, like content creation is its own calendar, events is its own calendar, meetings is its own calendar. And this allows me to put in my own custom colors and also kind of just see the visual breakdown of my day. So if I can see, oh, I have a bunch of meetings and phone calls on one day, I'm probably going to make sure to not schedule things the following day. So I have another admin type day where I can catch up on things. But it's just super helpful. You can also use tasks on Google Calendar. So if there is something that is not necessarily like an event that you want to schedule in, but you're like, hey, make sure that you pay quarterly taxes, or hey, it's this person's birthday. You can slot those in as different tasks and reminders, which is pretty cool. Another tool that really helps me organize the back end of my business is HoneyBook. So this is really what I use for all of my consulting work and those types of projects. And essentially with HoneyBook, I'm able to do a ton of different stuff. So number one, I'm able to create a client interest form. You can actually see the form if you go to austentosone.com/services, and then you can click on influencer strategy session. So this is the form that I have all potential consulting clients fill out before I agree to work together. And usually this form is a place where I am able to get more information about what someone is looking for out of booking a one-on-one session with me and how I can really help them. What's really cool is instead of just like using Google Forms and then having it go to my email and then having to separately like create a contract or think about invoicing, once someone fills out the form within HoneyBook, it becomes a lead, and then everything else can be done in HoneyBook after that. So it just really like streamlines everything for me. So from there, if the person submits the form and we agree to work together and we set a date and time, I am able to send them a contract through HoneyBook, accept payments through HoneyBook, invoice through HoneyBook, and HoneyBook also even has like automated payment reminders, which is just so helpful because there's nothing worse than, as a small business owner, you either forgetting to send out emails like that or remembering to send them out and being like, hey, did you want to like go ahead and pay me now if, because your payment is due. This is kind of just an automated thing where it's like, hey, make sure you pay Austen. And I don't have to remember to do it myself or feel stressed about sending an email from like my personal email address. It's like, it's not me doing it, it's Honeybook. So I love that. And I have, heard good things from clients that I've worked with Honeybook, just saying like, great, got the contract, super easy, all this stuff. So I have really been enjoying it. And I think if you do have a lot of clients that you work with, it can be a really helpful tool. Okay. And then the last one is Clean My Mac. And I don't know how anyone lives without this, just in the age of technology. If you have a Mac computer, you must get Clean My Mac. I believe I have a discount code, by the way, so I will link that in the show notes. I might have affiliate codes and discount codes for a bunch of these, actually, so I'll be sure to leave those in the show notes and put a little asterisk. Why is that word always so hard to say? Next to any tools where, like, if you hear me talk about them and you're like, I need that, and you actually go sign up for it, that I may potentially get a kickback or commission if you do so. So I can mark all of that in the show notes and also in the blog post recap for this episode. But anyway, Clean My Mac is just amazing because it will look for duplicate files. It will help remove junk. It just clears out your computer so that it can function more easily. So you don't have to constantly worry about notifications saying, you're running out of disk space. That notification truly gives me nightmares, especially if I'm in the middle of editing or doing something and I work with a lot of video files. I work with a lot of 4K footage. So my laptop storage does fill up pretty quickly, even though I have whatever like the maximum storage for a MacBook Pro that you can have. Sometimes that's just the way the cookie crumbles. So honestly, Keep My Mac, I think, has prevented many a mental breakdown from constantly needing to check up on clearing out disk space and trying to figure out what to delete. Like, it finds the things that I don't need, identifies them, and then just gets rid of them. Okay, so now you've heard about basically all of the backend tools and the things that basically like, keep the lights on around here. So let's move on and talk about some tools that I use to actually create content. The first one I want to talk about is my beloved Canva Pro subscription. Oh, Canva. What would I do without you? You name it, I've probably used Canva to do it. Instagram carousel posts, website graphics, newsletter header, digital products, presentations. The list literally does just go on and on and on. I am absolutely obsessed with Canva. So I think I've had Canva Pro for about 5 years now. I just time and time again find it to be so worth it to me. Like, the Pro features include things like different elements and better quality stock photos that you can add to your designs. It gives you more text options. It gives you the ability to save and add your brand kit and colors. So that means I'm able to preload all of my brand colors, fonts, and even logos so that it's all just like in there. And with one click, I can make any design look like it has my branding and look like me. There's also the background remover tool, all of the features in Canva Magic Studio, which I have to say is getting better each time I try it out and use it. It's definitely come a long way from the very early days that the beta released. So if you have been thinking about Canva Pro, I know that I do have a 30-day free trial of Canva Pro. So I will leave that link in the show notes. But yeah, let me walk you through a couple of things that I have used Canva Pro for in my creator business and that I still use it for basically every day. Like, I truly can't think of a day that I'm working that I'm not logged into Canva for something. One big thing is really presentations. I mean, Canva has certainly replaced PowerPoint for me at this point, and even Keynote. And I just find this so helpful and handy for lots of different situations where I need to create an actual presentation of some kind. The big one that I've really used Canva presentations for is all of my digital course lessons. So this is what I use to create all of my course materials for my digital course, which is called the Influencer Income Accelerator. It's a program to help content creators and influencers start and scale passive income streams to supplement their brand deal income. And that course is 4 modules. There's also a bonus training. All of those slides and all of those materials were created in Canva. Because it's so easy and streamlined, I very rarely have to go in and fix design-wise things on like individual slides. I can basically create a bunch of slides that I want, duplicate them, space them out, kind of create my own templates for things, which is so helpful and really speeds up my content creation process, and then just go from there. And I have also used Canva to create webinars to promote my digital course. I also do one-off presentations for different masterminds and other groups of creators. I actually have one coming up next week, so I was just going in and refreshing my Canva design for that one. Just absolutely love it. Another big thing that I use Canva for is collages and images for both my blog and also affiliate platforms like LTK. So one blog post that I did pretty recently was how to wear jeans with sneakers. And within Canva, I was able to create this little flat lay collage showing different styles of jeans paired with different styles of sneakers. And I was able to create that visual graphic in Canva so quickly from a template that I already had made for myself. Like I mentioned, I also created my newsletter banner in Canva, and I also kind of create these mini ads, I want to call them, for my blog, but the ads are basically just things that like promote my own digital product. So you may be reading a blog post of mine where I'm talking about tips for pitching a brand, and then see a little cute graphic that's like, by the way, buy my ebook right on pitch. That is something that I designed for myself in Canva, and that kind of seamlessly fits into the blog post and could be a great way to convert someone who was a casual reader looking for pitch tips to someone who wants to take action and pitch their dream brand and now is going to buy right on pitch in order to do that. I have also used Canva to kind of fill in the blanks with certain web design functionality. So sometimes it can be a little hard to get exactly what you want just working within a Squarespace template if you're not doing a custom web design. So I have used Canva to go in and create some custom imagery, which I'm able to use on my blog and on my portfolio website, which is austentosone.com. Canva is also where I create my YouTube thumbnails. This is really cool. And this is where I use features like background removal, blur, and where I'm able to kind of save like my colors and fonts that I typically use for thumbnails to create a cohesive look if someone does stumble across my YouTube channel to recognize like, oh, that's an Austen thumbnail. And then last but not least, I use Canva to create and sell digital products. And this is great because with Canva Pro, you can create templates and give people links to things that you've designed and have them edit it as a template. One digital product that I do this with is my influencer invoice template. So what I did was I created that product. Well, actually, first I created it for myself in Canva because I had a brand asking me for an invoice. So I made a template that I felt like included everything and was super, clean, straightforward, easy to send to brands. And then I decided to turn that into a digital product. So what I did was create like a templated version of the invoice template. So none of my personal information obviously is on there. It's just a template with dummy text that you can go in and edit and fill in with all of your own details and information so that you can easily invoice a brand. So that's one example of a digital product that I've designed within Canva that I'm able to share as a template when people actually purchase that digital product from me. The next tool I want to talk about for content creation is called Riverside. I am currently using Riverside right now to record this podcast, and it's been going very smoothly since I've been using Riverside. It is essentially a podcast studio. It also is super easy to edit, like do a first pass of an edit of a podcast episode, even all within Riverside. I talked about this, I believe, in my 1-year anniversary podcast episode. So I will link that in the show notes if you want to hear more details about how I edit with Riverside. But essentially, I'm able to use things like the built-in AI producer to remove pauses, ums, and uhs to speed up my editing process, and also use the transcript editor to see a full transcript of the episode, and also know that if I started the same sentence like 6 times and then I lost my train of thought or I heard my neighbor's dog or something, I can go to that point in the transcript where I'll see the same thing written out like 6 times, and I can delete the first 5 times that I said the thing wrong, and it'll also delete that part of the video. So it really does just help me record super easily. I am using my iPhone as a webcam right now, which I think is much better quality than the built-in MacBook, and I'm able to just plug my microphone into my laptop. It's a super easy and seamless production for me, so I've been really loving using that. Now, I actually do know that Riverside does have some kind of clips feature, but I have actually been using a different tool to take my long form podcast episodes, like just the full video with no other edits other than removing pauses and removing ums and uhs. And I've been uploading that to a software called Opus AI. Now, I believe Riverside also does have the ability to create like little short form video clips from a long form podcast video. However, I think that's on a higher plan of Riverside than the one I have now. And I actually have found another tool that I'm just super used to using at this point called Opus AI. So we can move on and talk about that now. Opus AI essentially helps me take these long form video podcast episodes. Like if you're watching this episode on YouTube, it's just the video of me talking straight through. And what I can do is upload this link to Opus AI and it spits out like between 20 and 30 usually short form video clips that I'm then able to pull from and schedule out on TikTok, Reels, Shorts, all the places. Kind of similar to what I was talking about with Canva's branding suite with Canva Pro, you're able to add in brand colors and preset settings to your clips on Opus AI so that you can easily generate them with colors that you like. You can choose whether or not you want Opus AI to add in emojis based on what you say. I haven't found the emojis to be like totally functional for me personally. Sometimes I'll say something like, "Oh, that's so T," and then it'll put like the golf tee emoji in, and I'm like, "No, okay, context clues, guys. That's not what we were referring to when we said that." Or sometimes I'll say something really casually, like, "Oh, I was surprised to hear this," and I'm saying it in a very monotone voice, and then it'll put in one of the emojis that's like, and you're like, "That's." We weren't overreacting that much. We were just like saying a word. We didn't need an emoji right there. So I usually turn off the emoji portion. However, what I love is that I can also go in and just like edit any words. So, maybe it's spelling my name like Austen the city, and I want to make sure I correct it to Austen, like me, like named after Jane Austen. And that's super easy to do in the text editor on Opus AI. Honestly, I should be taking even more advantage of this tool. I personally just feel like right now I only have the bandwidth to select 2 clips and share those to my social media platforms to promote the podcast. But I am currently in the process of hiring a virtual assistant for the podcast. So hopefully that's something that they can take over and maybe spend a little bit more time with than the time I'm spending with it right now, which is probably like 15 minutes, if I'm being completely honest. Okay, and then also kind of on the content creation front, I do want to talk about ChatGPT/Gemini. I am trying to test Gemini a little bit more as well, and I feel like I should preface this with just some thoughts on AI in general. Honestly, we probably could even do a whole podcast episode dedicated to AI. I think I've said that on here before, so if you actually want that, please let me know. But essentially, in my ideal world, like in my view of the universe, if we ourselves as humans had infinite time and resources to create as we pleased, we would do so. In an ideal world, would I love to personally be writing every single create and consume blog post recap that goes along with podcast episodes? Sure, I would love to do that in theory and be able to spend the time on it. Currently, this podcast is really not being monetized in any way, apart from affiliate links that I include in the show notes. That's pretty much it. I don't have ads on this podcast. I'm not doing sponsored segments yet. Like, none of that has come to fruition for me. So, for me personally, making just whatever I'm making from affiliate links, which I don't know how to separate that for podcast specific revenue because it's all kind of going through my, Austen Tosone Amazon storefront and LTK right now. Like, it's all just mashed together. If I were to try to separate out what I was actually making from the podcast, it would just take too long. If the podcast was making me like 10K a month, say, would I then have room and budget to hire an actual blog writer for the podcast who can produce much more thoughtful posts and do it in a better way and make it sound like the create and consume voice? Yeah, in theory, I could be doing that. That's not my reality right now. Okay. So I have been using ChatGPT and Gemini to essentially like close the gaps where I want something to exist and I just am running out of time to create it myself. And for me personally, something like using ChatGPT to turn my podcast outline into a blog post is something that I'm very open about that I do. Now, would I ever use ChatGPT to create a blog post for Keep Calm and Chiffon? No. Like that is something that I am very strict about, where that is my voice. I take that very seriously. That to me is my writing portfolio essentially and a reflection of my own work. That's not something I'm looking to outsource to ChatGPT. Okay. I've got that covered. Create and Consume does not have over a decade of posts written exclusively by one person and that sort of reputation to maintain as far as the blog writing goes. It doesn't have to be the best blog post in the world, and it's certainly not trying to be. It's really utilitarian, if anything else. Like I said earlier, if you heard me mention a product or you heard me mention a brand and you're like, oh, what was that again? I want you to be able to go to the podcast website and search for it easily and find what you're looking for. And for me to have a recap and a record of what all of the episodes were about and be able to easily pull things up. It's really just like creating a public facing catalog of the podcast for me. I would say that I primarily use ChatGPT for three main tasks. The first is exactly what I just described, like turning my podcast outlines into blog posts, which I have to still go in and edit and make sure that I add my own links and that it sounds like me, and that if there's any weird lines that got added in, that I go ahead and remove those. Another thing I use it for is brainstorming. This is just so helpful because, again, as a creator, often you are working alone. Brainstorming in a bubble can drive you crazy sometimes. And sometimes it's helpful to really take your time and tune in and be in your little bubble. But sometimes you just want a little bit of feedback and maybe you don't want to bother a friend about it, or you're honestly just wishing that you could like confide in a coworker about that kind of thing. And that's what ChatGPT is there for. For example, I do like using ChatGPT to help me brainstorm ideas based on already previously successful ideas. Not that long ago, I was able to upload my 10 most popular blog posts from the last 90 days and say, hey, here are my 10 most popular blog posts on my blog right now. Can you help me come up with 3 related ideas for each one of these topics? So from right there, I'm taking 10 ideas that I already came up with and that already worked for me. I'm feeding it into ChatGPT and getting 3 related ideas for each one of those. So that's 30 new ideas for my blog. And am I going to write every single one of those blog posts? No, probably not. But even if there are like 3 or 4 ideas in that list that I didn't think of, that I'm like, oh my God, I should totally write upstate breweries guide now that I wrote my Brooklyn breweries guide. Like, why didn't I think of that? And then I can link back to my Hudson weekend guide and do all these things. Like, it really can help connect the dots and show you things that are right under your nose that you just weren't thinking of because you're busy thinking about so many other things too. I have also used ChatGPT to review things like my copy for my website or how I market the podcast or even my Instagram bio to say like, hey, I want this to look and feel a little more conversational, or I want this type of person to follow me. Like, is there anything from this that you would change or modify? I have even uploaded YouTube thumbnails and said, do these stand out enough? Are they eye-catching enough? Can you clearly read the text? Like, give me the feedback that I need to hear in order to make this stuff better. And then the very last thing that I've been using ChatGPT for, and this hasn't come up a ton, but every once in a while, I feel like I need to turn to it just to speed up my process of my admin work. And that is for phrasing emails and responding to certain requests or brand deals and things like that. Especially when it comes to negotiating, I feel like that is something that sometimes people have a hard time advocating for themselves or standing up for themselves. That could be for things like negotiations with brand partners. You know, sometimes it is hard to advocate for yourself or really ask for what you want. So to ask ChatGPT to look over your email back to a brand and say, can you take what I said here and make sure that it comes off polished, professional, and just really straightforward? I mentioned this earlier when talking about HoneyBook, like having automated invoice reminders go out so that it doesn't feel like you're sending them. This kind of ties into what ChatGPT can help with. I've also had to use this before if a brand's been late on paying me to reply with a, strong and straightforward but calm response to a brand to hopefully get my payment paid out when I was expecting it. Okay, let's move on to editing now. So I still love using iMovie for all of my long form content. So I edit both my YouTube videos and podcast episodes in iMovie. It's free. It comes on every Mac laptop. We love that. And I basically, with iMovie, will just mix in Canva overlays and I can import cool fonts from there. And I feel like I can really accomplish what I want to get done just between those two things. And then when I'm editing the podcast episodes in iMovie, I typically will edit at 2x speed so that I don't have to sit down for as long while I'm talking. I can kind of catch and hear the points where maybe I trailed off and lost my train of thought, or maybe I started to say something and then needed to stop and fix it. And I honestly just find this to be like the fastest and most efficient way for me to edit the podcast episodes and still get them up on time. I have a whole video on my YouTube channel where I show how I edit in iMovie, so I can link that in the show notes if you want to check it out to see what I mean about using Canva overlays and imports, because I think that that does really help once you kind of see it all together. Okay, and then as far as short form goes, so I currently use both CapCut and InShot, and I don't know why I can't let go of the InShot clip editor. I just find it to be so much easier to use than the CapCut editor. So usually what I'll do for short form content is first do a pass through of my content in InShot. I just find the cut tool, like where it literally is just a single line as opposed to like a little pull bar on the sides of the content. I just find it easier to be more precise, I guess is what I'm trying to say, when I use InShot. And it's something that still makes it a little hard for me to turn to CapCut first or to TikTok and the built-in editor on there first. I'm just so used to how it is on InShot, so I just haven't been able to let go of that for basically like a rough cut of my footage. And by that I just mean like taking all of the clips and cutting where I'm talking and stitching them together. Usually what I then do, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'll export that from InShot. Then I will import that video to CapCut, and CapCut is where I will add the text overlays or any other overlays that I need to add. And I do this because CapCut also has captioning that I think is really good, and I think they have the better fonts. So I'm currently using a mixture of these two. I am curious to hear from you guys if anyone has tried edits from Instagram yet. I tried it a few weeks ago and then I haven't reopened it since because I was trying to edit a day in my life vlog, and I believe they've added this feature now, but at first when I added all the clips in, I clicked on one and I turned the volume down and I was looking for like an apply to all option because I wanted to mute the audio on all clips because I was going to add a voiceover. That I believe is an option on both InShot and CapCut, and the fact that I couldn't select all immediately meant that I was going to have to turn down the volume for every single clip that I had imported. I think there were like 50 of them, and there was just no way I was going to sit there and do that. So I do think they've added the apply all feature now. I will try it again, but I'm curious if anyone has thoughts on the edits app and if anyone has, come to love it or seen good success with it. Okay, now let's talk about research and distribution. So this is essentially tools that I use to help me brainstorm content and make sure I'm creating the right content, and then also once I have created the content to make sure that as many people as possible can actually see the content. One tool that I really love for SEO and keyword research is called Keywords Everywhere. So I believe I pay some kind of yearly credit. It's not super expensive. It's either like $10 or $20 for I think 10,000 search credits, and I believe it renews like on an annual basis. And you're able to save credits by only turning on the Keywords Everywhere extension when you're actually actively doing keyword research. It's just important to remember to turn it off when you're done. So this is a Google Chrome extension, and what I like about this is it just allows me to see the monthly search volume and also the competition for different keywords that I am targeting for long form content. Long form content essentially means either blog posts or YouTube videos. And again, what I like doing with Keywords Everywhere is really identifying the right keywords for what makes sense for me to go after. If I think I want to write a blog post about like the best jeans for women, I will look up the keyword best jeans for women, and then maybe from there I'll see, the first like 6 pages that are ranking are like Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, like New York Times, like big publications that I probably can't compete with. But maybe if I look up best jeans for women under $100, maybe there's like a smaller blog that already has a post like that I see as ranking. And that means that I have a better chance of also ranking for that keyword versus trying to compete against more established websites like Vogue. So being able to see a website's domain authority is really helpful with keywords everywhere. And then also seeing the monthly search volume. Monthly search volume is important because it just shows how interested people are in that keyword and how many people are searching for it. And again, you don't want to use too broad of a keyword. For example, if you just typed in like iPhone, there are going to be so many websites that pop up, and there's no way that you're going to rank for a blog post just called iPhone. But maybe you want to write like best and cutest iPhone cases that actually protect your phone. Maybe you want to do like a shopping roundup of all of your favorite phone cases. That is going to be a much more targeted search and keyword. And even though it might have fewer monthly searches than just iPhone, as long as there is a robust enough search volume and you think you have a chance of ranking for it, that is a great way to confirm that it's a good keyword for you to go after. If you want to learn more about SEO, I do have a free download for SEO that I can link in the show notes. Another kind of distribution platform that I use is called Kit. It used to be called ConvertKit, and this is essentially my email service provider. Now, I currently feel like I might be overpaying for Kit based on, the size of my list and what I'm actually using it for. But essentially, what I have my email newsletter for is really to communicate with my most loyal and, engaged subscribers and audience members to let them know when I have new weekly content out. So right now, I typically use Kit to reach out to everyone who's subscribed to my creator newsletter. And this is where I'll include links to my new weekly content from the week. So, whatever the new blog post, podcast, and YouTube video are from that week, they'll be down at the bottom. And I like to usually try to give a bit of the behind the scenes of one of those three things. So, if I was doing a YouTube video that was like week in my life as a content creator, I don't want to just recap the video. I want to give the newsletter subscribers just a little something extra. So maybe I'll share a bit of the behind the scenes of what happened while I was editing the video or something that didn't make it into the video from that week. So I try to do just a little something extra for the newsletter subscribers. And then I also use Kit to create email sequences to help me market kind of larger ticket digital products. So actually, I just dropped one of them a minute ago, didn't I? Yeah, I was just telling you about my free SEO download. It's called the SEO checklist. And essentially, when you opt in to that, hopefully this doesn't turn you off from doing it, but I did want to show you the behind the scenes. When you opt in to the SEO checklist, you obviously get it sent to you. And then you do also get another sequence of emails after that to help you figure out if my SEO workshop could be a good fit for you. So that is what the email sequences are for. It's basically giving out a freebie in exchange for lead generation. If you're interested in this thing that was free, maybe you'll be interested in this thing that was paid. And basically, that email sequence is my opportunity to just pitch the course to you and say why I think it's a good idea and what I think it can help you with. And it's obviously up to you at the end of the day to decide if you actually want to get it or not. So, because of all of the automations and the list splits that I'm able to do to make sure I separate, like, okay, this person just signed up for this, so don't send them this other unrelated thing. That's what I think is great about Kit and why I think it's super reliable and why lots of business owners really like it. Another distribution channel for me is LTK. So this is the Like to Know It app. And essentially what I'm able to do with that is upload any content that I've created where maybe I'm wearing an outfit or sharing a makeup look or even sharing like a little corner of the apartment. And that's where I'm able to tag products that are actually available to shop from those photos. If I'm shooting an outfit for Instagram, then I probably am also going to upload that same outfit to LTK so that people can go there to shop the look if they're interested. I will leave a link to my LTK in the show notes if you're interested in going and checking it out. You'll see that it's pretty similar to my Instagram and that it also includes some images like those collages that I was telling you about that I made in Canva that ended up on my blog. And what's cool about this is LTK has their own shopping app. So I typically will promote those links on Instagram to say, like shop my outfit if you liked this. But also if people are already on the LTK app, maybe they're searching for like minimalist home office or something and they come across a picture of my setup here. maybe they want to buy my desk, or maybe they want to buy my file holder, or maybe they want to buy the fire escape print that's hanging above my desk right now. Essentially, all of that is linked there, and that's just another way to distribute that content to a different audience and potentially make some money from my affiliate links. And then to take it another step beyond that, Pinterest is also a great distribution channel. And I primarily use Pinterest to share affiliate content like what I just mentioned. So maybe it is a standalone makeup look or outfit that I shared to Instagram that I then linked to LTK, where I'm able to upload the selfie or the outfit photo, whatever it is, to Pinterest as well. And I'll typically link back to my LTK rather than my Instagram. So that, again, if people were on Pinterest looking for specific outfit inspiration or how to style a particular piece, they can actually see it right then and there on Pinterest and then click through to LTK to actually purchase the item if that's something they're interested in. I also use Pinterest to market my blog posts and YouTube videos. I haven't been great about marketing my YouTube videos on Pinterest lately, but for every single blog post that I publish, I do also create pins for it. So that's just another traffic source to drive people over to my website. Those are all of the main tools in my creator toolkit. And then really quickly, I just wanted to do like a rapid fire to tell you about a couple of tools that are kind of seasonal for me or that I only use during specific times of the year. One of which is Loom. So I really like Loom. It gives me the ability to screen record and also show myself on the screen at the same time. So I have historically found this really helpful for pre-recorded webinars and my digital course and things like that. So I really like being able to use this. It also really comes in handy if you work with contractors where you can share a screen recording with a contractor and then they can also react at certain points or leave comments at certain points of the video. So it's really helpful if you collaborate a lot with contractors and you want to send them a screen recording of your process. Another software that I've used kind of sporadically in the past is called Demio. So Demio allows you to host live webinars, and you can also take your live webinars and then pitch them as kind of evergreen ongoing replays. A lot of course creators actually use Demio. I used it while I was doing my webinar launches for my digital course, and now my digital course is evergreen. So I might bring Demio back at some point to basically take one of my webinars that I use to promote my digital course and basically offer it almost on evergreen, like almost at any time that people want to sign up for it. I think that's a great feature of Demio, and it can really be helpful if you're looking to create like a passive income funnel for yourself. Another tool is Ubersuggest. This is a keyword research tool that I really only activate a couple times a year to do some more heavy lift keyword research than what I was talking about before with keywords everywhere. This basically allows me to look at lots of different competitors, kind of scan lots of different sites, and I'm usually able to get what I need just seated in one session with Ubersuggest. So I will, pay for the month or whatever it is that I need of it, and then I will deactivate it once I have gotten all of my keyword research, and then maybe like 6 months later, I will reactivate. And then a couple of other tools that I've tried in the past and that I certainly like, but I just don't really have like a space in my workflow for them right now. One of which is Later. I love the idea of Later so much. I think that it's great, especially if you are running like a brand or business account to schedule out social posts on all platforms. I just have noticed for me personally that the in-app schedulers for most tools work pretty well enough for me right now. So I just didn't see the point in paying for another tool at this current time. Another one is Adobe Premiere. This is kind of the front runner in terms of video editing softwares. Honestly, there's so much you can do with Premiere at this point in my video editing journey right now and getting content out on time and feeling confident about my editing. I just find that my iMovie and Canva workflow is working really well for me right now. So maybe I'll activate Premiere again at a later time. And then another one is Otter AI, which for a while I was using Otter AI to transcribe all of my YouTube videos. However, I think YouTube's auto transcribe feature has gotten even better over the years, which I really appreciate. And also now that I have Riverside, I could even upload a video to the studio if I wanted to and view the transcript that way. So that is definitely something that I used more when I was doing more interviews, like back when I was a magazine editor, and when I was, really religiously like transcribing videos for my YouTube channel and actually uploading the Otter AI transcription to make sure that it caught like every little keyword that it could possibly hope to catch to help with SEO at this point. And the new type of content I'm creating on YouTube, it's just not really a necessity for me, but it's still a really helpful tool. Okay, you guys. So I think that just about wraps up everything in my creator toolkit. I really hope you enjoyed listening to today's episode. As a reminder, you can support Create and Consume for free by doing any of the following. You can leave us Apple and Spotify ratings and reviews. You can like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you're watching this episode on YouTube. You can follow along at Create and Consume Pod on Instagram and TikTok. You could send this episode to a friend who might enjoy it. And as always, don't forget to check out createandconsumepodcast.com for episode recaps and more. Thanks again for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.